This is 1,198 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. Let's see if I'm on. Looks like I'm live. It's so important to make sure I'm live, so that everybody hears this information, because I think things are about to break apart. We know there's a lot of cracks. We know that we have this address 3905 Bliss Avenue. We know that we have 3705 Bliss Avenue. We know that that helped us piece together all the people, um, as a group working together in crime, and connected that to very, very high positions in different agencies and organizations and institutions. We those Van Buren houses. There's two of them, and the 3905 and the 3705 Bliss Avenue connects all these people together that are high positions in the VA, in the DES, in the CYS, in the CPS, there at the CID, there in the AUSAs in El Paso, there throughout the command. Um, I'm missing. Did I say the VA? Did I say Park University? Did I say UTEP? Did I say El Paso Matters and KTEP? And you know, all of this is coming together, uh, connecting the people together with hard evidence, and involving, of course, the abduction and the murder of Richard. Um, and so, how did he get involved with this group? You know, how did he get involved with those in the CID, those that are connected with, and I didn't, I always forget to mention mortuary affairs, right? The mortuary affairs. And I'm a little shaken from all the information that we're getting, because I don't think the American people, I don't think the normal American person can understand what is going on in these government um, agencies and institutions, with the brazen um, thinking that they have the power to determine for themselves the law, and to hold us to the law, right? To be subject to the law, but don't expect that they are, because of their connections. And they use aliases, and they steal people's identity to manage all of their criminal activities. And they absolutely take advantage of the hard working people of this country that pay the taxes, that don't get the tax breaks and all the privileges and everything, and pay for all of these government agencies. And then yet they themselves, who work for us, believe that we work for them, that they are, um, you know, immune to the laws of this land, or can manipulate the laws of this land through who they know, right? Through who they know, and also by what they do. I don't think we understand, at least I didn't understand the organization of this criminal attitude and I would say a criminal syndicate, right? Criminal syndicate, criminal enterprise that absolutely, by just asking the question, where's my son? Um, we have been exposed to Team Find Richard Halliday. We've been exposed to this. And it has just exposed or given us a reality check. I guess you would call it a red pill, right? The red pill of reality. Um, woken us up from a slumber, right? Um, to realize that we are being had, we're being taken, and we're starting to get now those that are part of these institutions and agencies um, to also understand what is at stake, but to get support from the public by waking up, the public supports them, and they are starting to actually be able to do something. Because I don't think people understand that this criminal enterprise will murder you. They will murder you, and they will abduct you, and they will murder you, and they will intimidate um, the witnesses. They will uh, manipulate and tamper with the evidence. They will conjure up, and this is not me making this up. This actually happens. They will coach and conjure up witnesses to accuse you falsely. They get away with a lot of things because they have gotten a PhD in orchestrating and producing false allegations against certain people in order to protect their criminal enterprise and all the wrongdoings that they do to intimidate and everything. Uh, and they will even conjure up families and these. This is so clever what they do. You know, um, to manipulate the law with these false little productions. And there's been one false production after the other, even in the military. And they do it for certain reasons. Uh, one, to service their business plan. Two, to cover up their criminal activities. Three, to coach and groom others to come up and join their criminal cult in order, the more they have, the more they can get away with, right? And it's just been a huge education to wake up from a worldview where you think, okay, there's corruption. I always knew there was corruption, um, but that there really is some very, very unconscionable, evil corruption that is much more broader and vast and has infiltrated much more than we even know. And Richard being um, homeschooled, so that puts him in a limited, um, I don't want to say a disadvantage. I think it is an advantage, a moral advantage, absolutely, and a moral advantage. And and if I do say so myself, we have a beautiful family. Um, everybody knows that we have a beautiful family. I'm very proud of our family. Um, a beautiful family, and being homeschooled, so he's not being groomed daily. And I don't want to insult people that have their children in school. I definitely understand the circumstances with today's economy and the need to work and just all the costs of everything and that. But you need to be very, very careful um, with, very active with your children, because the school and my Oma, um, my grandmother, she warned me very early on when the kids were, you know, babies, um, that as soon as you send your children to school, you lose them. You lose them. And, you have to work really hard because they're being groomed, they're being taught, it's out of your hands. And so, you know, uh, so I'm definitely understand the circumstances. We were very, very fortunate to be able to homeschool and to be able to adopt the boys. I mean, that was a miracle that happened. We had a home in Killeen, Texas, a little home, our first home, and we sold that. And from that money, uh, that's how we were able, because we were in Europe and we were in Germany, and we could just drive right across the border to Poland. And Poland had opened its orphanages up to Americans for adoption, and we heard that word through our church. Um, it was just God's timing and all of that. And so we, did sell the house. We were able to get the money together. And for one child, it normally costs about, at that time, 2004, to about $37,000 to adopt one child. And we said, well, what about two? And they were like, oh yeah, you can get two for that money. I'm like, okay, we're going to put in for three. Okay, we're going to put in for three. But we want two boys. We wanted two boys. So we were very, very fortunate, and we wanted older boys. And everybody was, kind of dissuading us from older children, you know. Um, and the stories that they would tell us, to get us to change our mind, And we're like, no, we want older children. And, and we're so blessed. We were so blessed, and have been blessed and are blessed. And so, it was our decision, um, to be Richard's parents, to be Robert's parents. And, we made promises to each other, Rob and I, and to them, to our family. And so, I'm going to get a little emotional, but I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to get emotional yet. So, to see um, the corruption, the carelessness with our volunteer sons and daughters. I mean, absolute carelessness. The and what do I mean by that? The generals, um, those in the higher positions, absolutely have a window and a door, and probably a big garage door, into the workings of the crime that's going on. They know. And they either participate or they look the other way. And to treat our sons and daughters like this, to treat this the news that we got yesterday, to treat soldiers that want to do the right thing. Praise God that we have very courageous sons and daughters that will stick up, and a lot of times they lose their life. When you think of Vanessa Guillen, she was blowing the whistle. When you think of Asia Graham, she was blowing the whistle. I have a lot of questions about her death, because and so does this soldier that wants this congressional inquiry, right? He has brought up in his congressional about these so-called suicides or so-called deaths, accidental deaths, and we heard that he has added to his congressional inquiry. This is very important. And it's moving forward, and we're so grateful. And I should come on here going hip hip hooray, because there's so much good news coming in with Washington D.C. international contact with us, with Washington D.C. This going forward with a research over there in kilometer 29 with institutional support, different institutional support, I should say, and with new information, with a clear information of what we're looking for, okay? Not just Richard's remains, but also other things that are connected with Richard's case and Richard's remains. So that is really important, that we go there with a different set of goals, not 100% different, because we are still looking for evidence of Richard's remains, but there's a clear connection that we're looking for, that, and all roads lead to Leilani Hart, right? All roads lead to Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart and the Hart family, James Hart, and those that have conspired, co-conspired, colluded with them in these higher agencies, organizations, institutions to do their crime, and which has hurt our country, which has hurt our sons and daughters, and specifically right there at Fort Bliss, that is right there in El Paso, right there on the border, the sister city, the Siamese sister city of Juarez, Mexico. And of course, that is a strategical post in order to traffic humans, traffic narcotics, smuggle weapons, and this whole thing with child sex trafficking, 85,000 now. We're we have unaccompanied minors coming over the border now in the hundreds. I think it's way over 100,000. And they must not have heard that when they come over, something happens. They get unaccounted for. And this worries me with what I have with Team Find Richard Halliday uncovered, that they use other people's identities. Okay? They use other people's identities. So, identity theft is huge in this. I never knew how valuable identity theft was to criminals. Um, and I should have known, but I just didn't pay attention. And it is huge in this. And they've absolutely stolen Richard's identity. We have proof of that. And I am just overwhelmed, um, so grateful. Um, those beautiful 33 seconds that I posted today, and I probably should play them, of the congressmen just standing, in Congress and saying that we don't have the best leaders in our military, okay? We don't. I mean, do you know how huge that is for a congressman to stand in Congress and just allude to that? You know, it's a miracle. And it's absolutely crucial for us to understand what he was saying, because, they always speak in this political speak, right? They can't just accuse or get up there unless they, uh, yeah, uh, there are exceptions. There are exceptions. But when it comes to the military, no way. They have to be very careful, and for good reason. Um, and I've gotten people like, oh my gosh, what are you saying? 44 four-star generals and admirals have betrayed us, are serving foreign and domestic enemies. What are you saying? How can you say that? You know? Um, so for the Congress, it has to be really bad for Congress to just even say what they did in those 33 seconds. So I hope you watch it, where our leadership, we do not have the best and the brightest leading our volunteer sons and daughters. Okay? No. And I would go further, um, with examples of all of these staged productions that are criminal. And I think we're going to go even further, which, I wanted to talk about Leilani Hart, because, all roads are leading to Leilani Hart. And we know that she either colluded, right? Colluded or conspired, um, to have this obstruction of justice, this false allegations against our key witness, uh, and I believe it was January, the end of January of 2022. No, 2023. Sorry, January 2022 is when our key witness filed the complaints against Leilani and Tavita. Okay, a year later, they're like, okay, we've got to protect ourselves. We have got to put in false allegations to the public, right? To discredit. It's kind of like the setup with the DUI, right? That we didn't understand. We didn't understand it until lately, and now we're getting more and more these false accusers that set that up. We all know that Belen Rocha was, right there at the forefront. They put her in the front, right? These cowards put her in the front. A young mother, they put her in the front. Now, she's up to no good. We know she's up to no good, but they put a young mother up in front. These cowards, they're just so cowardly. They're just orcs. They're just cowardly orcs, and they put this young, they groom her to be up to no good. But she's a young mother, right? But they don't care about that. And they just put her right up front. They put her up front while she was pregnant. That's how cowardly these people behind her are, and we've got the names, um, and we know the names with Lilani too, and of course we've mentioned them. We know that David Poche was put up to no good with the Lilani Hart. Did he conspire? Did he collude? We contacted him to say, hey, look, do you understand that all roads are leading to convicted criminal Lilani Hart? Do you understand how criminal she is? And this is what we know. Think about all the added things, because she has multiple open cases right now that are open in the statute of limitations. They're open. Okay. So she could be arrested at any time. And you know, uh, when you are in that kind of situation, you'd think you'd act very good, right? You'd be on your best behavior. But that's not the case. She has multiple open cases right now that are, you know, still open to the statute limitations, and she can be arrested. Okay, um, so here we know um, that she colluded, she conspired. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she wants to call us. Maybe she wants to write us a text message somehow. Find a way, 941-677-0060, and tell us who put her up to this, right? If she's innocent, she could tell us who put her up to it, right? But, you know, otherwise she's guilty. She's guilty of this obstruction of justice. And, then you have these major charges when it comes to Richard, because at this point we have abduction, we have the conspiracy to commit murder, we have tampering with evidence, we have yeah, and uh, tampering with a witness. Yeah, I have to hold my heart, because uh, this is this is something they have perfected. Okay, this was not just a oops, oops, we've got to abduct, oops, we've got to murder, oops, we've got to tamper, oops, we've got to fabricate evidence, we have to fabricate testimonies, we have to fabricate alibis, we have to fabricate um, accusations, right? False accusations, but we have to fabricate them, and we have to fabricate them using different identities, right? Let's pretend this is a production. This is a production. You know, you wouldn't believe it unless you're like Teen Fight Richard Halliday and have lived through it. And and don't forget about the phone calls that we traced, and it's like, what? This is a high stakes. This is a perfected enterprise, and they have done this numerous times, because they have these connections, right? They have these connections to a defense attorney that so happens to be part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, happens to be a Mormon. The Mormon Church is all over this, okay? The Mormon Church is all over this case, right? Um, and they should try to tell us if they condoned it or not. You know, because this is crimes, multiple crimes, and in Lilani and crazy. That's not my words, but that's everybody else's words that we've talked to. Crazy convicted criminal Lilani Hart, who is LDS, who has all kinds of, oh my gosh, harassment, and was ordered to be mentally evaluated. Her husband even filed in their divorce for her to be mentally evaluated. Uh, and so, where am I going with this? We absolutely know that they're involved with the disappearance of our son, okay? On multiple levels, be it the abduction, be it the tampering, be it the intimidation, be it with the orchestrating of false alibis or fabricating uh, accusations or whatever, or even committing the murder, or um, even orchestrating, organizing the murder. And then we know that these people, some are the ones that um, dismembered Richard, that were in charge of getting rid of the remains. Um, you know, which, it's like, okay, Angela Kachurga, what part? What part did you play? What part did you play, or what part did any kind of association with any kind of company or institution or play in this, right? Um, because it includes so many different people, and we know that. So where am I going with this, right? Well, they have gotten away with being above the law. That's what we have all this evidence. We have the institutional support. Now we're going into the accountability, and it is just um, uh, things are just cracking. But look, we're at over 3 years of hard work, hard work, right? So we're going to get this justice. It's going to break apart. I can tell you that right now. It's because of the communication that we're getting back now, the amount of communication that we're getting back, the congressional inquiry that we're headed into, by the bravery of this one soldier. But this should have happened, in the days following that Richard had disappeared. And so we don't want any other family to have to go through, almost 4 years of hard work day in and day out, and all the bullying and the harassment, and all of the people misleading you and giving you false information, the having to work through the orchestration, the production of a false narrative in order to get to the truth. We don't want that for other families. And we don't want that for our military. And we don't want that for El Paso. We don't want that for Fort Bliss. And we don't want that for Juarez, Mexico. Because all of this is connected. And so, hopefully the stumbling will happen, and, Leilani will be arrested any moment, because she has all these multiple cases that are open. And I want to make it very, very clear that it is a comfort to Team Find Richard Halliday, even though I don't want anyone else to go through it. But our statute of limitation is unending, because this is a murder case. So there's no statute of limitations. So the truth, is going to come out, and we're going to get the accountability. But some people, for what's done to them, they're under the stress and the time limit of the statute of limitations. So, so where am I going here? I'm feeling, very proud of Team Find Richard Halliday, because they're like, every case that happens in the military. And we've been part of the military for a long time. And the military, we have been looking up the whole immunity thing again. And we also went back and looked at that old case, and maybe I can look at my notes because I had brought it up. It was the old case from July 26th of 2023, I believe. It's pretty new. Um, Let me see when it was. Oh, I don't think there's a date on this, but I think it was in July. Um, Make sure there's a date. I'll get that to all of you. We're gonna put this all together. I'm so proud of Team Farm Richard Halliday. But the whole point of this is Colonel Matthew T. Adamczyk. I hope I'm saying his name right. It's spelled Adamczyk. He's a commander of the 3rd ABCT, 1st Armored Division, the Bulldog Division. Okay? And this case, because remember, we're pulling cases together because we're getting ready for the accountability. See, we've gotten this evidence. We have piles and piles and piles of evidence, right? All kinds. Hard evidence, irregularities, and circumstantial evidence. Okay? Now, and it's getting scary because scary, not that, but like, okay, I better be ready now. I better be ready because now we're getting the institutional support. So now we're getting this going forward with the congressional inquiry. So the preparation, we want to be on top of it. This is our chance now. This is what we've been wanting for over 3 years, is to get to the bottom of this, right? And so we're getting there. We're getting so close. We're getting to the bottom of this, and we want to be prepared. And part of that preparation is to look at other cases, right? Of course, the main shooting that just happened is very important because he was military, right? Then, of course, Uvalde was very important because he was military, and that was Judge Xavier Rodriguez that ruled over on that. And then this military case, this military, it doesn't seem like a case, but it is to us. It's very important to us because it's right there in Fort Bliss, right? And of course, all the cases that Leilani Hart is involved in, and then Dallas Hart's history. Dallas Hart has a history. That's important. They've tried to hide that because, he went green to gold. He got all this privilege, right? He got all this privilege, and they don't want to let us know because he's totally Richard's platoon leader and involved in this major crime against Richard, right? So, so these are all cases. There's a few more cases that we're really looking at, because what is the problem here? We have this colonel and I can read it to you. On a recent night at Fort Bliss, 2 Bulldog soldiers allegedly shot into a crowd outside a bar in East El Paso, resulting in the death of 3 civilians and injuring 5 others. The soldiers involved were roommates and part of the same company. Both firearms used in the incident were unregistered. Okay? Because, we maintain now with these tactical move storage units that Richard was witnessing weapons smuggling, even grenade smuggling, ammunition smuggling, and not just a little here and there, but a lot. And we know that through Brigadier General David Stewart's mouth, and also former, I've been told he's a former CID agent. Now you can correct me, dirty agent Marlon Soto, but we're been told that you're a former CID agent. Okay, I don't know if he lost his badge, but it didn't seem to be there. Um, and there's other information that we're getting. Um, but he's a dirty agent. And he was telling us that the weapons were all in all of the barracks. And of course, David Stewart was like, well, when I got here, the barracks were flush with weapons. Okay, so were these unregistered weapons? And we know the gunsmith, that, has this relationship with someone that is involved in our son's disappearance. Okay. Um, Wowzer. So hard to believe, but what I'm trying to tell you, and anyone that knows things can call me 941-677-0060, that we have this alliance with N4 Bliss. We have, you know, inner the inner circle. We are getting information from the inner circle. Um, and so we're getting that kind of support from Washington, D.C. So things are coming in, and we're, we're getting ready. We're getting ready for the accountability. We're just that close. And, how long it's going to take, I don't know. I don't know. But this is something we're looking at, and I'm so proud of Team Fund Richard Halliday because they came up with this request that we introduce a new bill. That as Team Fund Richard Halliday, while we're doing this, while we're getting this congressional, we introduce a new bill. And we're trying to work it out, of course. But it is that anytime there is an incident that involves law enforcement, that could be the MPs, that can be outside police, because in this case, the soldiers, they were shot into a crowd outside a bar in East El Paso, and they killed people. And so you have the law enforcement in El Paso involved, and you have the law enforcement on Fort Bliss involved, right? At any time this is involved, right? Because you look at Uvalde, the Air Force covered it up. They covered it up. They failed to let the NCIC know about the dangers of that shooter, right? And he was dangerous, and they all knew it. But they were not obligated by law to make sure that he was put on the national criminal database, right? They have to report it on that incident database. So these incidences with the law enforcement, be it off or on a military installation, anytime the law enforcement is used, it should be required that is reported as an incident on the national database and crime database. And look at the guy in Maine. They all knew he was about to blow. He was about to blow. They all say that. He had to kill all those people. They failed to put him on the National Criminal Incident Database. This is really, really important, and my terminology is not quite polished yet. I'm going to get more polished with this. This is something very new, a request from Team Fund Richard Halliday that I think is really an amazing request because I just cry for Enrique Roman Martinez's family. Just cry, because there's more to it. There's more to him getting his head chopped off, his hair pulled out, his eyes gouged out, his body thrown into the... Who knows what they did to his body, because we've never found his body. We only found his head, right? Only his head. I mean, there's more to it. But the leadership, that's up to no good. I mean, are we going to depend on Major General James Eisenhower for justice? Are we going to depend on the Director of Emergency Services, Thomas Kane? These are a dirty general and a dirty Director of Emergency Services. Are we going to depend on the JAG? The JAG is dirty. Judge Robert Shook, Colonel Shook, he's dirty. He's absolutely dirty. And he ruled over Asia Graham's case. Right? Absolutely. He was involved in the warrants and the probable causes and our son's case. Absolutely. Right? So are we going to depend on CPS? We've got a dirty agent there. Are we going to depend on the administrator for CYS? Are we going to depend on the president and the director, the local director of Park University? Who's afraid to reach out to the family of the Vanessa Guillen, first absent soldier? Same thing with Thomas Kane. Afraid. And are we going to depend on the CID when they're conducting their own little production in front of the military police there at Fort Bliss, creating this false narrative to the military police so that they will not even look for the Vanessa Guillen, first absent soldier? I mean, are we going to depend on that? And then are we going to depend on Vanity Fair Veronica, who, can't... All she does is mirror, mirror on the wall. Well, right now, she has to do this congressional, right? Right now, she has to do this congressional. She has to not, we have history now with her. We have history, and she's not allowed to take this personal. She is supposed to be looking after that soldier that is requesting the congressional, and it is for getting to the bottom of the Vanessa Guillen, first absent soldier. So what is this going to do if you're on the national crime database? Okay. That puts all of them on their toes. It's not local anymore. Local office of the general, commanding general, can't act as God anymore if whatever incident happens on the base can't stay on the base. It has to go onto the national crime database, right? It has to be reported onto that national crime database. That is super an oversight of all of our military installations that will, I don't think, end any incident, but it sure will shine a light on the incidences. And, when you have, Fort Bliss, they have the most incidences of all of the military installations. What kind of general is commanding over there? I think that is powerful. I think that is a powerful safety net for our service members in order for them to get justice, to get the JAG to act, because the commander then will say, hey, I don't want these incidences. I don't want this criminal syndicate. I can't get a star if I am like number one on the National Criminal Incident Database, right? I think that it would really help, super help. This is a really proud, a really exciting day. And yet, I'm a little shaken by the whole thing, because 3 years ago, I never expected it would lead to something like this. I wanted to find my son. I want to find my son. I am working to find my son. And I am so sad, because I know that he was abducted and murdered brutally. Okay? And that Major General James Eisenhower thinks it's okay to cover that up. That Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe thinks it's okay to cover that up, because they don't have accountability, that they think they can be God and determine for themselves if someone, gets immunity. And this is how this came up, because we're looking at the immunity. And we found out that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe could never legally issue any immunity. And he should have told us that. That's not in his purview. In his purview. As a general, he is to uphold justice. He is to defend the Constitution. And he, as a general, can't make the judgment to give immunity to a murderer, to an abductor, to a person that tampers with evidence, to a person that intimidates witnesses, he can't do that. That's not his job. That's the Department of Justice. And so he should have told us that. And we're just learning that because of wanting to revisit this whole immunity thing. What is it all about? And they can't do it. They can't do it. And that it brought up, wow. But they are doing it because, look, in this case, this incident, listen to this. So you had 2 bulldog soldiers shoot into a crowd, allegedly. You have to say allegedly. I don't know if they are, I'm just looking at this. So I'm pretty rough. I'm going to get an education through all of this and be very versed in it. But this is what I wanted to point out, because I think this is really important, and everybody needs to see the process of what we're going through in order to get justice for our son, right? But following the shooting, these guns were not registered. They weren't registered. Okay? Concerns arose about potential illegal weapon storage in the barracks. This is, the date. I think it was July 26, 2023. Yeah, July 26, 2023. Illegal weapon storage in the barracks. Over the weekend, the same company had 2 off-post events involving unregistered firearms. To address these issues, a 100% health and welfare check of the barracks and vehicles in the unit parking lots was executed. Now listen to this. So they have a weapons problem. They have a weapons problem, and they are not going crazy. They're not going crazy that they have a weapons problem because they have a weapon smuggling criminal enterprise on Fort Bliss, and they can't go crazy because they have to cover it up. That's my opinion now. That's my opinion. But let's keep going. During the unannounced inspection, 79 different instances of contraband and illegal weapons were discovered. This included 41 illegal weapons, 39 of which were declared under an amnesty period offered to the soldiers. Now, that is what, okay, so, you first read the story and you're like, oh, they have a weapons problem, right? But look at what's happening. This Colonel, I wrote it down, Matthew Adamczyk, right, is acting as God here. He's acting as judge. He's acting as like he has the power to give them amnesty for illegal weapons. That's what he's doing. He's giving them amnesty. That's not his job. He can't. That's the department. This is the problem. They're playing loosey-goosey with the law. They're playing, what's that? Playing fast and loose. I wanted to write that down. Be fast and loose with the law. Because I wanted to include that in this draft for this bill. The draft for this bill. And it goes on. But the amnesty period for weapons proved effective in encouraging the recovery of even more illegal firearms. However, it is suspected that there may still be more undeclared weapons in the barracks and in privately owned vehicles. Wow. This is the point here. They are playing fast and loose with the law, and they have no oversight, and so that they think that they can have the power, and so because they do it so much, we believe that they have the power, but they don't. They actually don't have the power. That is an abuse of their power. What this colonel has done, this commander, is an abuse of their power. It is really an arrestable offense. The colonel, like Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, like Lieutenant General Donna Martin, like General Garrett, like General McConville, like General Mealy, like Major General James Eisenhower, they are playing fast and loose with the law, and they have committed crimes that are arrestable offenses. They're not allowed to do this. And that's why these crimes, these groups can grow and grow, and they can grow into a very elite, very organized, very high level criminal enterprise. And then my very brave, beautiful young son comes in there from a home that respects law, right? Absolutely respects law, respects family, has a moral backbone, comes in there, and he's seeing this criminal enterprise all around him, and it's like, what are you guys doing? You're pimping out these women, these young girls, because you're horny and you just want to see them naked? That's not being respectful. You're taking the Americans weapons that are meant to secure their liberty and their pursuit of happiness under the Constitution, and you're smuggling it across the border and pocketing the money. You're messing with children and creating child porn. And you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this. The barracks are marketplaces for illegal drugs. There's weapons all over the place. And we know that Captain Park was trying to find those same crimes with Richard through that letter. And he couldn't. He couldn't. And he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. Right? He couldn't believe he couldn't find those crimes. You know what that's saying? That there is a weapons problem. There is a crimes problem. And it is so bad that when you have one soldier that's not participating in it, you can't believe it. It's all becoming so clear now what is going on. And so I thought this was an amazing thing that we can do when we go up to Washington, D.C. for this congressional inquiry, when we go up to Washington, D.C. for this bill to get justice for Richard, to get people put in prison, not just in prison, but we're talking, Texas is tough, and we need to be tough because they're killing our volunteer sons and daughters. They're killing our military installations. They are killing our cities and towns that support these military installations. They're even making this an international incident. And Richard is an international incident. And he's the first Vanessa Guillen absent soldier. The first Vanessa Guillen absent soldier. And I should say the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. This, we've got to stop this. And just because Richard's case gets broken, has gotten broken, I mean, we've got a big crack in it. We've broken it. Now we're getting the institutional support so we can get the accountability. That's where we're at here. And that 33 seconds today, I was like, yay! We're getting, if he can say it on the floor of Congress, that tells you things are shifting and that the word is getting out, and our letters and our letters and our letters and our open records and our, all the things that we've been doing, showing our evidence over and over and over again is starting to get through. And of course, they're responding to us, and they're responding in more ways than just writing us letters and contacting us and putting forth this congressional inquiry, getting that through to the top. So it's starting to come into the culture of it, right? It's starting to come into the culture of Washington, D.C., which, it needs it. So that was 33 beautiful seconds. And so the point of this bill, and this will allow us to talk to even more senators and representatives, but the whole point of this bill is that any incident that happens on a military installation needs to be absolutely, that involves law enforcement, right? Any kind of law enforcement. It could be a military, it can be a civilian. If there's law enforcement, that incident needs to be reported on the National Crime Incident Database. And I think that is because we have these mass murders going on in Uvalde, in Maine. This involves military. that it didn't have to be. That's why I believe the judge in the Uvalde um, awarded those families $240 million. I think so. 60% responsibility goes to the Air Force, the military, because they did not report his mental health issues and everything, and he, um, you know, all this identity theft, right? This is a problem too, and he went and bought a weapon, which he was not allowed to do. So that's our what was going on today, our talk going on today, because we got the State Department answering us. We have the DA answering us. We have um, many different things that I'm not at liberty to say that is going on. So that's really, there needs to be, let's answer questions now. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Danielle. There needs to always be an unbiased third party to investigate. Otherwise, yeah, that it's biases. Yeah, they need to be tough and give an example to others to deter others from these crimes. Absolutely. But for these criminal enterprises to grow, I mean, think about how many people have been hurt. These are seasoned criminals. These are seasoned criminals, and they are in very high places. I mean, Thomas Kane, the director of emergency services. I don't even want to tell you what our list for him is on all the bad things he did, and of course, he didn't want to talk to us, so silence is consent, right? So we're asking. Call 941-677-0060, or you know who to contact to spill it out, because Texas is tough and they need to be tough. And the death penalty is on the table here. And the crime is so huge. Think about it. July 9th, 2020, they knew that Richard had no record at all, and they rather murder him, abduct him and murder him, and dismember him, and then hide and then orchestrate this whole thing with millions of dollars, than to give us our son's remains and put these people in prison, or in the chamber, in the I mean, come on. We're talking about our military here. We're talking about the people of this country. You know, it's not just a crime against Richard. He's a whistleblower. So this is a crime against the American people, against the people, the service members on Fort Bliss, against the people of El Paso, against going the wider area into Mexico. It's a huge crime. So, um, I don't know what we'll call the bill, the Richard Halliday bill. Um, yeah, I don't know. That sounds good to me, the Richard Halliday bill. Um, and we need something to hold these commanders' feet to the fire. They cannot just say, "Oh, I'm going to give you amnesty." You know, you do what I want, I'm going to give you amnesty. Hey, you do what I want, and I'm going to give you a disability check. I'm going to give you a, I'm going to give you this if this is the problem. They have their own little country, you know, right there on Fort Bliss, and they think that they can maneuver through the law. And but they, in Richard's case, they violated the UCMJ, didn't they? And they violated it so bad that in his archive records they had to scrub it off and clean it up. Well, who ordered that? Who ordered that scrubbing? You see? And so, one crime leads to another crime, leads to another crime, leads to another crime. So, and the thing with Leilani is that she has arrests on Fort Bliss, right? And, those incidences need to be reported in the National Criminal Incident Database, because when she goes and gets a job in the civilian world, they need to know. They need to know that she is a convicted criminal. She was arrested. She has multiple open cases, and she can be arrested at any minute. So, yeah. Okay, so that is something to be very, very proud of. And now I feel lifted. When I first came on, I was kind of like shaking, reading through all of this information. And yeah, so thank you, everyone. It's so important to do these live streams, uh, and it's such an education for me. And I just want to say thank you so much. It is absolutely necessary and crucial to have your support. Absolutely. And that's why there is people working behind the scenes to control the narrative, to intimidate people that are supporters, to intimidate witnesses. Absolutely, these controllers, because they know that it is absolutely necessary and crucial to have your support to move this forward, to move the congressional inquiry forward. Please sign the petition and don't stop there. Please campaign to others to sign this petition. All it is to agree that a soldier has the right to a congressional inquiry. That's what that is. And to ask the questions that he asked and to get answers to those questions. And they're all on there. And we've been told that he's added some more. So this is, really important to give him your support to move this forward. And it is absolutely necessary for him to have your support, because he is risking his life. Right now, you can't depend on the CID. You can't depend on the DES on Fort Bliss. I'm talking about Fort Bliss. Well, maybe they changed. We're hearing that Soto, Dirty Agent Soto, is former CID agent. So that's good news. That is very good news. Um, yeah. So, but it's still, absolutely a must that we give him our support, and for us to have your support. So, humbly, always, thank you so much, especially after 3 years, um, day in and day out, to have your support is absolutely, we're very, very grateful. So thank you, and God bless you, and I'll be back tomorrow, God willing.